Hi there to everyone just joining us. We'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. We'll give folks a chance to come on in from the lobby, the virtual lobby. Hi and welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Gretchen Van Ethelston and I am the Education Director here at the Specialty Food Association. I'm so pleased to welcome today my guest, Bill Guyton. Bill is Executive Director of the Fine Chocolate Industry Association, FCIA, where he provides strategic leadership for over 350 company members. Prior to what he does now, Bill was the founder and CEO of the World Cocoa Foundation for 15 years, where he grew the organization from a handful of companies to a globally recognized organization with 115 members, representing 85% of the global chocolate industry. So Bill and I will chat for a little while, and then we'll take some audience questions. If you have a question at any time, please use the Q&A area on your Zoom toolbar to type in your question. Welcome, Bill.
Great. And Gretchen, thank you. It's great for me to be here today and to talk with you. And I just wanted to say up front, we're so excited to have this partnership with the Specialty Food Association. The partnership goes back several years, but this is a new kind of forum, as we all know, of a virtual forum. And it's great to have so many participants on the call today. And I'm looking through the list to see if any of the names are familiar to me, and not yet. Oh, yes, I do see a couple of people I know. Yelena is on there, and perhaps some other companies of ours as well. So it's great to be here.
Fantastic. Excellent. So let's start at the beginning. So how do you define fine chocolate? What's the difference for us between fine chocolate and mass market in terms of price and quality?
Well, we've struggled with the exact definition at the Fine Chocolate Industry Association for quite some time. But really, we look at it in terms of four different areas. One is how it tastes and how it looks. Those are probably the most important thing to a consumer. You want to look at something and really see something that's professionally manufactured and something that tastes wonderful. So the sensory is really key. Another thing that distinguishes fine chocolate from mass market is that it tends to be minimally processed. So a lot of times with the mass market chocolate bars you might find in a supermarket, they're highly, highly processed, whereas fine chocolate is not. A third area is that in terms of the ingredients, fine chocolate companies seek the best ingredients for their products, and usually there's fewer ingredients versus many. So a simple way to test whether you have fine chocolate, for example, is to look on the label. And if cocoa is the first ingredient listed, that's a pretty good indication that's probably going to be a fine chocolate bar. If you see sugar listed first, then perhaps not. The fourth area to think about when you think of fine chocolate is how it's sourced. And most of fine chocolate is ethically sourced. A lot of our company members have direct relationships with the farmers that produce the cocoa. So it's a much more direct supply chain back to the farm level, which again is a win for farmers and a win for small business and a win for consumers.
Love it. Thank you. And what's the size of the fine chocolate market segment of the industry? And what's the growth potential like?
Yeah, so the size of the chocolate industry as a whole it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States. Fine chocolate is only a small segment of that. It's about the top 5% of the market. So although it's relatively small, it has a great following and a growing following of consumers. So as far as the growth potential, what we've seen last year, despite COVID, there's been probably about a 4% growth rate overall in chocolate, and fine chocolate is keeping up with that growth trend.
Fantastic. And what can you tell us about the folks who are buying fine chocolate in the US? Who are they? What kinds of products are they looking for? And what are you seeing that's trending in fine chocolate?
Great. Well, that's a good question. And just looking at some of the people on the in the audience here, I'm sure some of them would be able to respond to this as well. So, would love to have your comments in the chat if you'd like to add to anything I say. But we did a consumer survey of chocolate consumers in the United States with the National Confectioners Association in 2018, 2019. And what we found was that really that fine chocolate consumers tend to be younger. Millennials are big consumers of fine chocolate. They tend to be located in urban areas, and they tend to be a little bit more affluent. That being said, you also find fine chocolate consumers in other age groups and other demographics. The other interesting thing out of this survey that we found was that fine chocolate is beyond just East Coast, West Coast. You also have more and more fine chocolate consumers throughout the United States. And what's really driving that a lot is that, at least in the past, has been chocolate festivals. And it's been an opportunity for consumers in different parts of the United States to sample chocolate and really get to know it and appreciate it a lot more. Now, with the onset of COVID-19, a lot of consumers are going to online festivals and ways such as Specialty Food Live to market and show their products.
I'm so interested in that. How is it going to an online chocolate festival?
Yes, well, we're going to have actually a webinar on that topic next week at the Fine Chocolate Industry Association next Thursday at 12 noon Eastern time. And we will actually have one of the chocolate festival organizers talking about that, about how he set up the Dallas Chocolate Festival and how that experience was. I think as time goes on, we're learning more and more about that. And I think more and more chocolate companies are seeing how they can benefit from that platform.
So interesting. And we do have the chat open if folks do want to, as Bill suggested, go ahead and kibitz and get in on that part of the conversation. And just circling back for a minute, how about those trends? So what are you seeing in terms of trends for what types of products that people are looking for?
Yeah, so again, just talking about the consumer survey that we did, I mentioned before, millennials are big, tend to be more affluent and in urban areas. The other interesting thing out of the survey was that there's a slight preference actually for fine chocolate consumers for US brands versus just European, which is kind of a surprise to me. And it just shows the growth and innovation of the fine chocolate movement industry in the United States. The other thing that we learned through the survey is that consumers really care about environmental stewardship and social responsibility. That's really important to them. Certification is important, and consumers are willing to pay the extra money for certification. So although it's expensive, it is effective too in attracting consumers. The other thing we're learning about fine chocolate consumers is that they're experimental. They like to try different things. And so fine chocolate companies are always looking at the newest and next best thing to attract fine chocolate consumers. They tend to like dark over milk chocolate. We also did a question about what they like to call specialty chocolate, whether that be artisanal or other terms. But fine chocolate tends to be the terminology that's most preferred by consumers. And it's more embracive, I think, of all of the other terms that are used for this segment of the market. So that's why we are the Fine Chocolate Industry Association. We also ask consumers whether they like to eat chocolate with other products, if they like to pair. And what we're finding is that right now, I guess the preference is that people like to eat fine chocolate on its own. They do eat it sometimes, of course, with coffee or wine or other products. Let's see, what else? The trends, organic, non-GMO, vegan, all of those are important. And our company members offer products that have all of those ingredients. As far as flavor preferences, we asked consumers in the survey, and almonds came in at the top of the list, followed by caramel, peanut butter, hazelnut, and coffee.
That's great. We have some questions starting to come in.
Mhm.
So before we get on to the next question that I have for you, you mentioned certification. Now, are you specifically talking about fair trade, or are there other certifications as well that are important in this particular industry?
Yeah, they're probably the three main ones are fair trade. Another one is UTS or Rainforest Alliance. And then I guess we can consider also organic as a certification. So those are the three main ones that really come to mind. But like I said, I think that, we're talking with our company members, a lot of them also are sourcing directly from cocoa farmers. And so that also is very important to communicate to consumers.
How about we're hearing a lot about buyers who are specifically looking for minority owned and women owned businesses from products from those businesses. Are you finding that to be true within the FCIA companies?
We embrace that. And in fact, we have a new initiative that started last year in FCIA to encourage and embrace and become more inclusive and diversified in our membership. And I'm really pleased to announce that our new board, which was just elected at the end of last year by by their peers, half of the board members are women. And we also have representation from Africa as well as Latin America and Asia.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit more about your membership. So, as I understand it, a handful of companies launched FCIA in 2007, and now you have over 300 members here in the US and abroad. So, what is the composition of that membership?
Yeah, it's been really exciting to see the growth in the membership. And despite COVID, we continue to get new companies. The last quarter of 2020, we welcomed in 18 new company members. So despite all of the challenges, we do see some growth. As far as the composition of the members, about a third of them are chocolate makers or bean to bar. So they're the companies that actually purchase the beans and make it into finished product. About a third of the members are what we call chocolatiers, and they buy byproducts from manufacturers to make wonderful chocolate products. And then the remaining third is really a combination of cocoa traders, specialty retailers, farmer organizations, and traders.
Wonderful. What has been the COVID pandemic impact on the companies within your membership?
Yeah, I'm thinking back on 2020. I was at a wonderful event that we had in San Francisco in March. It was the Elevate Chocolate event that we hold every year, a B2B, and it was followed by the chocolate experience, craft chocolate experience festival. And the day after we completed that event, everything was closed down. So um, we realized at the time that we were going to have to change the way we did things. Of course, face-to-face events were not possible. We didn't know how long that would go on. So we quickly changed to really more of an online presence and helping our company members to pivot to direct sales to consumers. So as far as the impact on fine chocolate right now, we're really seeing a mixed bag. Of our membership, probably a third have mentioned to us in previous surveys this year that they really have struggled. About half of the company members, though, in 2020, at the time we took the survey, said that they were doing about the same as the previous year. And then another segment said they were actually doing better than they did the previous year. So we're seeing really a variety of responses from different company members based upon their circumstances.
So you talked a little bit about sourcing. Let's dig into that a little bit more. So where do your company members at FCIA typically purchase their cocoa beans? And how do they ensure ethical sourcing and sustainability?
That's a really good question. You can find fine cacao in all parts of the world, Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. Cocoa grows about 20 degrees north and south of the equator. It likes a very tropical, wet climate. For fine cocoa, probably the majority of it is in Latin America. And in a survey of our company members, about 80% of them source from Latin America. So that's number one. And the primary countries in Latin America include Ecuador, Peru, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Trinidad and Tobago, Central America. But you also find, as I mentioned, fine chocolate or fine cacao in other parts of the world. And in Africa, for example, Madagascar has some wonderful fine flavor cacao. Also Tanzania, well, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and parts of West Africa as well. In Southeast Asia, Vietnam has some fine cacao, as well as the Philippines and Papua New Guinea. So the second part of that question, I think you were asking about how do we ensure about ethical sourcing. I think, having that more direct linkage with the cocoa farmers or farmer organizations really helps to ensure that. And we deal with company members that purchase directly themselves bean to bar, and also cocoa traders that are very much involved in those cocoa farms and what's happening there. So we see that the ethical and environmental stewardship that these cocoa farmers are following is really better than in other places. And our companies also offer a premium to those cocoa farmers that can provide quality cocoa beans.
Fantastic. And I see one of your colleagues was kind enough to put over in the chat some info about your B2C website, Make Mine Fine. So thank you so much for doing that. And how about on your FCIA site? I know you have some online demos and some sampling opportunities. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, we have two sites. One is B2B. It's our finechocolateindustry.org site, which really talks a lot about what we do as an industry association, and that's where you'll find information about the webinars that we have. We also, as you see in the chat, have a consumer-facing website called MakeMineFine.com, and we have over 100 of our company members listed there that sell fine chocolate directly to consumers, and we have GPS coordinates. So if a consumer goes on our site and wants to find a locally manufactured chocolate, a local chocolate shop, they can easily use that feature to find a local company. The other great thing about MakeMineFine.com is that we also have a lot of educational material about cocoa sourcing. So you can look at a particular country and find out what makes the cocoa from that country fine flavor, what makes it unique and amazing. And you can also find out the history of cocoa in the country and how it's marketed, how it's harvested, how it's fermented at the farm level. So any chocolate lover that wants to learn more about the supply chain, it's a great resource for them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bill. So we have some questions starting to come in from our audience. So I thought we'd go ahead and pivot over to those. So the first one is, during the pandemic, do you find that consumers have been indulging in fine chocolate more, and maybe even cooking or baking with a fine chocolate as opposed to more of a commodity chocolate during the pandemic?
Yes, Julie. I see this is coming from Julie, and I would say the answer is yes to that, Gretchen. We've seen a lot of interest online, and again, websites like Make Mine Fine and others that really help consumers find chocolate companies. It's a great way to connect the two. And we've also seen an uptick on consumers that just want to try to make chocolate at home, and we have equipment sales for consumers on MakeMineFine.com as well, in case you're really adventurous and want to try that. But to your point as well, I think baking has certainly been on the upsurge, and that's good for our company members as well.
Fantastic. And then talking about certification, we have a question: how important is Kosher certification in your fine chocolate world?
It is important, and certainly a lot of our companies offer that as well. On Make Mine Fine, we have a search feature, I think, for non-GMO and for organic, we probably should also have a feature for kosher as well. So I'm glad that that question was raised. That gives me an idea that maybe we go back and try to help consumers find kosher products more easily on our website as well.
Excellent. Here's another question. If sugar is the first ingredient, would that automatically disqualify a brand?
Not necessarily, but I think in general terms, what we find for fine chocolate is that it tends to be higher in cocoa content. And so if you don't see cocoa in the first 2 or 3 ingredients, I think that's sort of could be a red flag that it's not fine chocolate. But kind of to your point, kind of chocolates, if you have sugar in there, of course, sugar is a key ingredient, particularly if it's a good quality sugar. So yeah, it was a good question.
Great. And then also from the Q&A, how we talked a little bit about the COVID impact. So how is COVID impacting sales? And this audience member says that they have heard that there's massive stockpiling of cacao beans in Cote d'Ivoire.
Yes, so on the second part of the question, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana produce over 60% of the world's production of cacao. And that tends to be the source of mass market cocoa. That's where the Marses and the Hershey's and the Nestle's and others purchase their products from. For fine cacao, you see that more in Latin America and in other countries. So if a country stockpiles, particularly if Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire have stockpiled product, or if they have a climatic year that's either good or bad, it can greatly impact the market, not only for mass market, but also for fine cacao. So it's something we keep our eye on, but the supply chain is quite different for most of our companies versus the West African cocoa that's produced in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask you about your Heirloom Cacao project. That sounded so interesting to me as a big consumer of heirloom tomatoes and heirloom apples. I didn't know about Heirloom Cacao.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Heirloom Cacao Preservation Fund, or HCP, is our sister organization. It's a nonprofit that was set up by FCIA and US Department of Agriculture a few years ago to really help identify fine flavor cacao throughout the world, and through tasting panels, and to help preserve that and to see how that can be scaled. So right now, I believe there's 16 designated sites for heirloom cacao. And if you go to their website, which hopefully my team can put that in the chat, you can see where those 16 sites are. It's also, there's a link from to the Heirloom Cacao Preservation Fund on our fineChocolateIndustry.org site. But HCP it's a great way to reward farmers with a premium that make amazing chocolate. It's unique flavored cacao. The majority of the sites are Latin America, but there are also, I believe, sites in Tanzania and Madagascar, and then one or two in Southeast Asia as well. So as time goes on, we hope to expand beyond those 16 sites to find other farms in other countries and geographies that really have this really unique flavored cacao. And on that site, consumers can find actually where they can purchase chocolate products with HCP designation.
We'll be doing that. We have a question about Venezuela. How has the political situation impacted the industry? And is cacao still making its way out of Venezuela?
Yes, so great question from Keith. And Venezuela has some of the best flavored cacao in the world. It's really an important origin. And we're concerned about the political situation there as well. There are companies still operating and there is product getting out, but I don't know the latest situation right now in Venezuela, but we want to continue to support the farmers there any way we can. It's just some of the best quality cocoa you can find.
Yeah, I'm getting a few coming in through private chat. We talked about certification a little bit. What about this concept of clean label? Does that seem to apply in fine chocolate, clean label?
I hesitate because I'm not familiar with that term. Perhaps whoever asked the question can give us a little bit more detail, but I would like to know more.
The thing is, what I hear with clean label is a lot of people really have their own notions of it, but it's not a true standard. So I think that this is the notion where consumers do tend to feel that fewer ingredients tends to be better ingredients they can pronounce, that kind of thing. But clean label is it doesn't have the kind of rigor that something like a real certification does. But I would say probably it's not as much of a factor in the fine chocolate world if you're not hearing requests for this kind of clean label.
Oh, great. I'm seeing in the chat, just to your point, clean label has no legal or formal definition at this point. I guess from what, and I'm sorry because I'm not as familiar with this as probably you, Gretchen, or others on the line, but it sounds to me like it's more of a direct marketing linkage with farmers and looking perhaps at some of the activities that companies or farmers are supporting to improve the quality or flavor of the product at the farm level.
And I think that some people would define it as having no refined sugar, having gluten-free, but it really is more of a loose consumer term that you would see more, say, in journalism than you would in the industry.
Great, thanks.
So, yeah. How about, here's a fun one. Are there any fine chocolate hotspots in the United States?
Hotspots meaning places where you find more fine chocolate? Well, as I was saying before from the survey, my notion going into before we did the survey was really one of the big hotspots is the Bay Area. San Francisco tends to be an area of a lot of creativity, of innovative companies. So that's one hub or hotspot. I would say the Seattle area too. There's a wonderful chocolate festival there each year called the Northwest Chocolate Festival that is amazing. It's grown so much over the years, but it tends to bring in local chocolate makers as well as international. So we hope that that's going to be back on track for the fall. It sounds like that will take place hopefully in the end of October. Another hotspot, of course, is in New York, and then we're finding more and more smaller companies springing up, as I mentioned, throughout the United States.
Excellent. We just had a question: would Valrona be considered fine chocolate or commodity chocolate?
Yeah, it's a good question. They're a larger company, but they do a lot of specialty chocolate demonstrations, etc. They're on the larger end of our membership, but they're very active in FCIA. So they are part of our world, yes, and part of our membership. We're pleased to have them.
And then I see a note in the chat from one of your colleagues, which is great, about B Corp. I know that you have some B Corps within your FCIA membership, and here at Specialty Food Association, we absolutely do too. Tell us a little bit more about B Corp for those who might not know.
Yeah, so we had a really interesting webinar on B Corp certification, and the thing that I like so much about it, it's a very rigorous certification process where companies have to show not only how they ethically source, but also their business practices as well, how they treat their employees, what sort of community development efforts do they have in place. So it's a very stringent process, but something that I think really raises the profile of ethical companies. And we're really pleased that several of our company members are B Corp certified, and we hope others will join them too in the future.
Fantastic. Here's a question. How are fine chocolate makers targeting younger audiences? Possibly, how about social media? Have you seen any interesting fine chocolate social media outreach?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And believe me, they're doing an amazing job using social media. I think Instagram is one of the most preferred social media platforms that they use. Of course, Twitter, Facebook. It's hard to find a fine chocolate company that doesn't have a Facebook page. So all of those platforms are used. Of course, the wonderful thing about Instagram is you have such wonderful visuals that can be shared through that platform. So I think a lot of that is targeted towards younger audiences. But I think they're using all different kinds of avenues. And in addition to being very creative in developing new products, they also are very creative in their marketing and promotions. So we hope that will continue.
Wonderful. How about, let's see, so how important when you're marketing fine chocolate are the health benefits of chocolate?
I think that's a really important aspect. And I mentioned earlier that one of the defining factors about fine chocolate is that it has fewer ingredients and better quality ingredients. You find a lot of our company members that use organic. So when you look at the health benefits, where you have perhaps less sugar, higher in cocoa content, fewer ingredients, that makes for a better and healthier product. Tastes better and it's better for you. So this is something that's very important. Also, cocoa on its own it's good because it's high in antioxidants. So there's also lots of different health benefits that way.
I actually recently read something about I'm trying to think if it would be cacao or cocoa in this case, but the benefits for gut health. Are you hearing a lot about that?
Yeah, I think we could share some more information on that as well with you afterwards, or if the readers or if the audience is interested to see on that. But a lot of times during our events or festivals, we invite people with health backgrounds to come in and talk about chocolate. It's never going to be a health food, but it is a healthier product than a lot of other food groups out there. Certainly, it's better than candy, and with the higher in cocoa content, as I mentioned, you get the added benefit of antioxidants, etc.
Fantastic. I think we may be almost at the end of our questions. If you have a last minute question, please do go ahead and put it in the Q&A. And once again, thank you so much to the Fine Chocolate staff for putting all these valuable links over in our chat. And I hope everyone will go ahead and copy and use those links and head over there. I'm going to go look at the Instagram for Make Mine Fine and look up some of those beautiful chocolate photos when we have a little break before our next session here.
Wonderful. And I hope that those in the audience are able to visit some of the websites and makeminefine.com if you want to buy some great chocolate. And we're also so excited to have at our FCIA pavilion so many of our chocolate members participating in the Specialty Food Live. And we hope that you will reach out to them as well. There's some spectacular companies that offer some great products.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon, Bill.
Thank you, Gretchen. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. We hope you have a great afternoon at Specialty Food Live or wherever your business takes you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.